Pesachim Daf Membez. Today's email comes from Morty Ness. He says, as always, the shir is great, and it's an amazing schus to be part of the MDY Chabura. He goes on to say he's been following the sugya of marar, and after learning through the sugya, he realized that his minhag, like many others, to eat romaine lettuce together with horseradish, with chrein, might not be according to what he learned in the Gemara. One is bitter, one is sharp, and the main mitzvah is with romaine lettuce, because that's mentioned first in the Mishnah. Obviously, it's been a minhag Yisrael to use chrein, but this is mainly because it was difficult to get romaine in Europe, as the Mishnah Brewer notes. As a result of learning the sugya, I'll use this year exclusively romaine for marar and combine it with chrein for kairach. All the best, Mordechai Ness. If a person eats a full kazayis of raw carbon pesach, belel aseder, that's the issa deraisa mefurish in the Torah. What if he eats a kazayis of roasted carbon pesach, the way it's supposed to be eaten on leil aseder, but he eats it erev pesach, also a lav? How do we know it's a lav? It doesn't mention anything in the Torah. This is a lav habo mechlal asay, is considered asay. You're over an asay. The Torah says va'achlus habasar b'layla asay. You shall eat it at night, meaning you shouldn't eat it during the day. But Rabbi Yehuda holds that any time the parsha starts with the word leimar, it flips this asay into a lav. We see so by the Sarua V'Kalat. The Torah tells us that if a person has an animal with a mum, one of its limbs is larger than the other, one eye is larger than the other, one foot is longer than the other, donate it for monetary purposes to the Beis HaMikdash, not for a carbon. So I can learn from that if a person takes a perfectly healthy animal and donates it to the Beis HaMikdash, he's over on the lav. It's a lav abba mechlal asay, and we flip it into a lav. The word leimar can be read loy ne'emar. It says no, or lav ne'emar. There's a lav that's said over here, and that's dafka when there's a asay, a lav abba mechlal asay, says Taisvus. If a person, a baker, has a bowl of water which he soaks his hands, he dunks his hands to wash it off occasionally, so his hands are full of flour, we're concerned that there's chametz in the water, so you should spill it out on an incline, and if there's uneven surfaces and there's a lot of water, you shouldn't spill it there because it'll gather and it'll become chametz. Rabbi Yehuda says the famous halacha that a person, woman who's kneading dough should use mayim shalanu, water that slept overnight. The idea is to cool off the water. The earth is warmer during those months, and warm water could create chametz. The Gemara says a very funny story. Rav Masna said this over in a city called Pupanya, and he said the word mayim shalanu, and everybody thought he's talking about his water. So they all came with their jugs and said, Rebbe, can we please have water? He said, no, I was talking about water that slept overnight. Lina, not lanu. The Chazon Ish points out, it's to teach us the idea of emunas chachamim. They realize something is wrong, but he said so they listen. Rava says it's also to knead the dough in the sun because of the heat, and not with water that was heated up by the sun, and not water that comes off a pot that's suspended above a flame. Even though the flame is extinguished now, the pot is still very hot. When a person is making matzah, they should finish doing what they're doing. They shouldn't do anything else. And a woman who's kneading the dough, she has 2 bowls of water. One bowl she uses to baste the matzah, and one to soak her hands in it to cool off her hands, that her hands shouldn't create heat in the dough. What if a woman or a man uses water that was heated up in the sun? Machlokes, even though it's aser, but Mar Zitra says if she was over and if she did so, you're allowed to use the matzah, just like we said that you're not allowed to soak barley in water, and if one was over, you just take a look at it. If they split, you can't use it, but if they didn't split, you could use it. So too, Chacham weren't geyser. Rav Ashi says no. Over there they weren't geyser. By us they were geyser perhaps. Maybe there's a knaz because she was over on an Isser D'Rabbanan. And with that, we finished the perek Kol Shah, the very famous perek. And now we're starting perek Ve'elu Oivrim, or Elu Oivrim. The Mishnah gives us 2 categories. There's a category of chametz that's a taroivus, a mixture. For instance, kuta chabavli, the famous smelly spoiled milk with moldy bread that they used to eat, that has a mixture of bread in it, but you don't see the bread. Or beer from Madai, you don't see it. And chametz edaim, these are the vinegar. You put a little barley in the beer, a little barley in the vinegar, aser. Then there's another category of chametz nuksha, which we'll get to soon. Before the Churban Abayis, the wine that came for the nesachim, for the libations on the mizbeach, came from Yehuda, and Yehuda therefore was zeicha that their wine never turned into vinegar. So, and after the Churban, as we know, Klal Yisrael and Edom can't be on the same level. So once Klal Yisrael fell, Rahman Aslan, Edom went up. So it became Edom's wine that didn't spoil, and they had to put in barley in order to make it into vinegar. Before the Churban, if you bought produce, you bought vinegar from an Am Haaretz, you don't have to take Meiser, because we have a chazaka that it comes from temet, not from actual wine. And temet is very inexpensive, so we're not chayshish that the Am Haaretz won't give Meiser from that. Or we could say that it's made from lees. Am Haaretzim are choshesh that they didn't take, but since it's made from lees, you have to take Meiser. And if it's made from the seeds of the grape, then you don't have to take Meiser. In our days, if you buy vinegar from Am Haaretz, you have to take Meiser. Then the Mishnah goes on, Zisum HaMitzri, which is a third of it is made out of barley, according to our Papa it's wheat, a third saffron and a third salt. You soak it, you toast it, you grind it, and this is great from Pesach to Shavuos. And in the list of Nuksha we have Zoymin Shel Tzavayim. This is bran water that paints redskins. Amelin Shetabachim is bread made out of wheat that didn't even grow, a third. And that's in order to grab the froth off the top. And you have Devik Shel Soifrim, glue of shoemakers, or even Soifrim use it to glue the paper together. Once we're talking about Kutach HaBavli, that nasty food, Kutach, it has three things. It's Metamtem Misalev, it clogs the heart because it's made out of whey, which is a derivative, a byproduct of milk. It blinds one because the salt is Melech's Daimus, and people put their fingers in their eyes, and it weakens the body from the moldy bread. Says the Gemara, very fine bread and fat meat that comes from a goat that never gave birth, and wine that's aged 3 years old gives special strength to the body. It helps the eyesight, it increases the eyesight, and it lessens the body's waste. Typically, these items, they don't have any side effects. Typically, if you take medicine, it'll help the heart, but it'll hurt the eyes, for instance. Not these things. And also, you can add to the list fresh ginger and long peppers. These are things that have no side effects. Have a wonderful day.